Okay, welcome to step 5. And for our Created for Good Works program, we are seeking to serve. Are you able to see the screen that I'm hoping to share? Great. Okay, I'll pass it off to Christina, who's going to help teach today.
All righty. So as you heard from Deanna, we've got a lot of steps. She's done the first 3 steps. So hopefully you all, some of y'all have your workbooks and you've gone through the other steps today. We're moving into, excuse me, step 5. So seeking to serve. So, or searching.
Say that I would say this. So you're welcome to, but if you would like me to do a recap, I can do that.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay. So the last few steps, we have gone through hearing God's call, taking an inventory of your interests, your attributes, your aptitudes, and then, looking at cultures and seeing where targeting opportunities that might be good fits for you. This next step is going to be seek to serve. So we're going to talk about 3 parts of the job search strategy, why a lot of your time, a good majority of your time should be spent on the ground networking and with people, and talk about an informational interview and the value that can be, explain why personal referrals are so important. We're going to identify other ways for connecting and networking, talk about a networking script, and how you may use your star stories, which we also briefly covered the other week, and identify the pros and cons of online searching, and talk about some of the do's and don'ts of social media, and finally talk through networking progression from online to in person. So if you've missed any of the previous Zoom lessons, it's not too late. We do have workbooks available here at the church if you would like to pick one up, or if you want, if you're far away and you want to order one online electronically, you can do that as well. And that link is crossroadscareer.org. That's where a lot of the resources are that we'll be referring to. Finally, we do have our own YouTube channel that we are just now creating. So the last 4 sessions have been recorded and they're available there as well. So if there's something that you need to see, just reach out to me and I'm happy to share that link with you. And so seeking to serve. We always start with Bible verses. The steps of man are established by the Lord, and he delights in his way. That's from Psalm 37, verse 23. And this verse should be familiar to most of you. Maybe it's even posted on your bathroom mirror. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not calamity, to give you hope in a future. Jeremiah 29:11. And finally, for Luke, from the chapter 6, verse 38, give and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So now I will go ahead and pass it over to Christina.
All right, thank you, Tracy. So I love the title of this section because it's seek to serve. And so I think that is a foundational thing that y'all should hang on to, because when you're seeking to serve, you are more attractive to a future employer, future partner, like future organization, no matter what, because it's about what I can do for you. And so I think that's much more attractive than what you can give me. Like, yeah, you might give me money to pay my bills, but really, what can I do to help you? So think about it that way. Like, I'm seeking to serve you, and what can I do? How can I help you? So when I first saw this slide, I was like, oh, interesting, 2 eyes. But really, it's really great to ground yourself in this, because one eye is looking kind of like, what are my plans? How can I look forward? And, what employers need my talents the most. And then that other eye is, what is God telling me to do? Where is he sending me? What paths is he putting in front of me that I ignored, or that I sometimes don't want to listen to? And so I think that it's really important to kind of think about both eyes and both directions and both things. Sometimes people are like, oh, God will present the right plan for me. But if I'm not using that other eye and thinking about what I need to do, then you're only using one half of the equation. So I think it's really important, to listen to this Proverbs verse. The mind of the man plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps. Let's go on. Here's another great quote on this page, and we're going to start, just in case y'all are following along in your workbooks. We're going to be in workbook page 69. And so Albert Schweitzer said, "I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know. The only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve." So again, kind of that foundation, serving. So like even in my role, like I always make sure that I'm serving our employees, because if I'm not doing that and helping someone else, then I'm not finding joy in my work. So really the best way to kind of start looking for jobs, I mean, searching for jobs is exhausting. I'll just, put that out there. It's really hard. It's hard on your soul. It's hard on your life. It's hard on your time. It can really not be fun sometimes, but you've got to be strategic about it. And there's kind of this little 3-part strategy that Crossroads puts out there that really kind of puts it in a nice little box for you. And it's continually praying, personally connecting, and then searching online. And really doing all 3 of these pieces really help kind of create that package. I know a lot of people who will just pray and say something will come to me, or who are always networking. Oh, I'll just network, or who are just applying all day long. They apply to 50, hundreds of jobs. But do y'all know of any stories where people have done this, all 3 things? Have y'all? Just going to ask out there for some interaction.
Yes, to all 3.
Yes. Success stories, I hope, or?
Yes,
Yeah,
so
totally.
far.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. I have a friend who just landed a job that she is so excited about. And I'll have to tell you, she was laid off of a job more than a year ago. So she was really down for a while. And at first she was just applying. I need a new job. And finally she realized, okay, I've got to be more strategic. And so she started doing these 3 steps. She kind of took a step back and said, what will make me happy? She started praying, listening to what God wanted. She started connecting to those who she'd worked with before, asking, what are y'all going to have open? What should I be working in? What was I good at in my old job? And really using her network for good, for the strategic purpose of finding a new role. And then she was still applying to jobs, but more strategically, not to everything that was open, but really what would make her work well. And with that formula, she just landed this amazing job. So I think that it's really important to kind of like slow down sometimes to speed up. So let's dive into each of these steps a little bit more. So Matthew in chapter 7, verse 7 said, "Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be open to you." I'm sure we've all heard this phrase. I mean, this verse. I've heard it thousands of times, and I also have heard people say, "Well, I've asked for it." And so I think this goes back to those 2 eyes on that slide. I've asked for it. I pray for it. Why is it not being handed to me? And so this is really where we have to do things too. And so you have to, ask, you have to seek, and you have to work for it. And so sometimes, it's hard, and there's lots of steps to it, but that praying continually, regularly, and also asking the right thing. Sometimes I've heard people say, well, I pray all the time for it, but are you praying like for God to give you the right opportunity? Are you praying for him to fulfill your purpose? Are you praying for your bills, for a job so that you can be paid? I think that making sure that we're praying for the right fulfillment is a really important thing too.
Great, and I'll just say this book, if you don't have the workbook with you, this is also online on the Crossroads Career website, and I'll send an email out with that link. But I suggest printing this. It's a really nice resource to have, when you feel down, it gives you a verse. The Bible has just filled with so many comforting words, and praying first, seek ye first the kingdom of God. It doesn't mean like that's the last, if nothing else works, then just pray as a last ditch effort. We're supposed to seek first the kingdom of God. and, give him the strength. Ask him to give you the strength to connect to the right people. And it's okay to pray on your way into an interview. That's a good time to pray as well. And then I'll just share our Bible study. ASK can be an acronym for ask, seek, knock. So just think A for ask, S for seek, and K for knock. So every time you're asking, let it remind you of this verse.
I love that, Tracy. Thank you for that. I'm glad you said that too, because I always pray right before an interview, but I pray not for the interview to go well, but I pray that God gives me the words that are the right words. And I pray that I either, am in the right frame of mind, and if the right outcome happens. And so that's not always like the best thing. Some people are like, why aren't you praying that you get the job? And I'm like, because it may not be the right job for me. And so I think that's really important to ask and right before the job interview, and ask for that courage. Help me be positive and strong during that interview, and excited, and all the things you want. So
right. And God's will be done. I mean, that's our Lord's Prayer. It's not about a specific outcome, but that his will is done in your life.
Exactly. All right. So that's go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. I thought of that is Matthew verse because I always say that if you want to something happen, you have to start in some point. You have to do something. It's not just pray. It's be brave and do something for that happen. And another thing is when you say that you pray before an interview, and I want to add to that pray, we have to ask to God to put in me, please, in the way you want, because it is his plan, his purpose, and we have to go in that way. Sometimes we are focusing on an interview or in a position that is not for us. It's not God's plan. That's it.
That's really good. Yeah. Good point. Put me in how you want me to be presented and in the right place. So that's very good.
Yeah.
So just to keep in number 2. So that's praying is number 1. Number 2 is to connect personally. So in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4 is do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in your humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. I think this is really important when you're looking for a role, when you're a job seeker, and you're looking, if you'll go to the next slide, Tracy. Connecting personally is about value. Well, even the part you highlighted is about valuing others. So I've had cold calls from people because they're trying to get a job and they know that I work somewhere, or they know that I have a certain experience. But it's so much more personal, and I feel more valued when they know someone, and that person who knows me says, hey, I know Tracy, and she said this, would you mind spending 30 minutes with me and talking about XYZ? And that warm referral from I'm absolutely happy to talk to that person, because then there's that personal connection. And so I think building that network and networking with people through other people, is that personal connection is invaluable. People who are networking, it's, again, to some it's very tiring. It can be very hard. It can be very just exhausting. But I think more than half of jobs are filled before they're ever posted, and they're filled by someone who knows someone. So that, if that doesn't tell you that you've got to build your network, then nothing will. And so more than half of jobs, I'll just say that again, are filled. And so you've got to get to know people who can help you find the openings, find the people who will know the people who will know the people to refer you. And so, but in order to do that, you've got to understand what it is that will make that personal connection and help that and create that value for them. Because it's just about, will you help me get a job? There's no value in it.
Christina, this is Ken. This networking, this what we just talked about here. I think the previous slide, the way I looked at this when I was reading it, that was the premise of servant leadership, is looking out for other people and helping them be successful, and then just connecting personally with the network. I really believe that this is a skill that is not only important during the job search, but even after you get into a position, that being able to network and connect with other people in the organization and get to know others along the way I found to be a tremendous valuable skill to have, because it sure does, when you have to partner, when you have to work cross-functionally or things along those lines, and collaborate with other members of the organization, it helps to have those connections. So anyway, this is a great segment. So I appreciate you guys spending time on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Tracy, did you have something else to add?
No, I just said thank you. I absolutely 100% agree.
If
Yeah,
you don't
I
mind
feel-
me adding something real quick.
Go for it.
I have to be honest, probably about a year and a half ago, I was scared to network. Due to my age, I was scared. I don't want to say talking to adults, because I am almost 28 now. But I was nervous about things due to maybe political things that were going on. I was scared about saying the wrong things. So I stayed in my bubble. One thing that I've been praying on and trying to do personally is putting myself out there, being honest with different generations and different types of people that I would never interact with prior to my closed-mindedness. But that's one thing that I've learned, is that we are all just trying to serve God and that's our purpose. I mean, we all have different purposes within that. But that's when I realized I need to open my mind up to sharing who I am, where I think my skills are, even if they're not, and just reaching out to different generations or people that I've been intimidated by. I finally reached out to my pastor after I was attending my church for 2 years. And it was a big step for me, but I'm very thankful for you guys sharing, because networking is something that is very scary, in my opinion. And I think it's something that I feel like my generation's kind of missing. But that's, again, from my perspective. We just think we're always right, and we're not. And so I'm learning a lot already from this, and I'm thankful for you guys kind of mentioning about networking, because that's reinforcing kind of what I've been doing. So that's why I also reached out to Tracy. I prayed on it right before and reached out to her. So thank you all for sharing.
Thank you. Well, and it is a lifelong skill. And I will say it gets easier too. Like networking, that's a very natural thing for me now. And I mean, maybe I've always been a little bit outgoing, but it's not that I'm networking just to network. I just, I have a lot in common with a lot of different kinds of people. And so I've always enjoyed being a connector. And when you can connect people throughout your whole life, then there's times in your life where you might go back and rely on that, those connections, but you do it not because you're needing something or seeking to get something, but because, it's the whole idea of being a giver and seeking to serve. And, I love when connections that I know, Christina is what she said about being willing to be a connection for people. I've connected her to others in my personal network as well, and they're doing work together, which is really great. So it just happens. It gets easier. So good job for recognizing those things and deciding to work on it. And there's plenty of resources. We can definitely go deeper in all this. These lessons are just kind of trying to get through a lot of things all at once, but when we get through this in the beginning of next year, we'll have more time to kind of deep dive, or if you have specific questions, we can certainly talk about that offline throughout the week.
Yeah, I could lead a whole hour just on networking. So I think the key point on it is like seeking those connections through somebody else, like even informational interviews with somebody who's doing what you might want to do. But most importantly, like making sure that you're helping them, like find something that you can give to them. Like whether it's like, I read this article that you might find interesting, or I don't know what, find something that you can do to help them. I noticed that you are low in this, or that, that you love this kind of lotion. And so I got you one as a thank you, like whatever it is, just to make sure that they know that you're trying to also provide value back. All right, so next slide is still about connecting personally, but just a little bit more, a different way of thinking about connecting personally is doing some research on what companies you're kind of targeting. So just like Segaline, if I'm gonna say her name, butcher her name a little bit there, she's researching like, I want to work for international companies so I can move with my role. Also research like the best companies to work for. Make sure that they're kind of have the same things you're looking for in their culture, in their style. Some companies are very traditional. Some companies are very non-traditional. You have to kind of find where you fit in that balance. And there's lists out there for everything. I just saw a list today on LinkedIn about best companies for women to work at. And so I think there's lots of options and lots of lists out there. And so it's always good to make sure that personally also means like for like what's good for you. All right, so let's do a quick exercise. I want everybody to take a pen and a piece of paper in front of you and write down as many names that you know that you would think as like kind of your personal contacts that you can think of. We're gonna do a 60 seconds. I'm gonna see if I can time it on my
I'll
phone
start
here.
the timer.
Okay, good. Tracy can do a timer for us because I'm terrible at that. And as many names think of in 60 seconds and just start writing it down. Now, ready, go.
Ten seconds. Time's up.
All right. How did that feel? Pressure?
I thought it was fun.
Griffith thought it was fun. I actually did it and I felt a little pressured. I started writing down names. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to get through all the ones in my head in 60 seconds, which I didn't. I didn't get as many names down as I.
The good news is you can continue this exercise afterwards because chances are you didn't write down everyone you knew in 60 seconds.
Exactly. So this slide is really, and this exercise is really to get you started thinking. All those names are just the start of people who could be a person. So if you look around this list, think about like, okay, recruiters for sure, vendors, decision makers at other people. It may be somebody from church, somebody that may be from an old school, but what about your family? What about old job workers or other people? Start thinking about like your circles and how they might intersect and how they might intersect with other places. So like when I start listing out my circle, I'm like, immediately it's like all the people I work with and all the people in PTA with me or whatever, because those are the people I see every day and, you know, every week. But then I started thinking, oh, well, there's these other people. Oh, and everybody in PTA, all these, you know, 30 different companies. So then that creates all 30 different opportunities for me to meet and go somewhere. And so then you start thinking about all those opportunities and the people they know, and that really widens your circle. So we're going to get to that here in a few minutes. But, you know, the next slide is really about searching virtually. So, you know, I use LinkedIn a lot, but there's also other websites, Indeed, other social media places. But really, a good amount of your time, you know, I would say like 20 to 30%, this says 15 to 50% of your job search time needs to be online. What are you typing
Sorry
there?
if I'm distracting you. Sorry, that was supposed to be less than half.
Less than half. Okay, that's what that means. Less than half of your time should be, I saw less than YZ. So
Yeah, sorry. I've never used this thing before.
I love annotation. It's fun. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say definitely less than half of your time needs to be applying to jobs. Some people say, oh, well, I do 20% of 20 hours a week looking for jobs. And I'm like, well, then are you using 20 hours a week networking and praying? Because really half of your time should be one thing and half of your time or more should be the other stuff. So you may want to lower that time of job applying and raise the time of all the other stuff, because the networking, again, more than half of the jobs are filled by people that they know.
Another thing I'll add with that, in my Mary Kay world, we used to call 9 to 9 as people time. So if it's before 9 a.m., your chances are you're not going to be reaching out and personally connecting with people unless you know they're like early risers like me, but that's just not really prime connecting with others time. So the time that you can be spending online and doing this type of work, or you're, you know, updating your resume and that sort of thing, is sort of the non-people time. So I would just, when you're organizing your day and your week, I would keep that in mind and try to schedule your online time to be the time that you're not, you know, making informational interviews with people, or don't do it at lunch if you can use those lunches, you know, better spent by actually having an in-person, you know, need conversation with someone. Don't waste your lunchtime, you know, unless you have another full-time job and that's the only time you can do that is by leaving and, you know, searching on lunch. But I would really caution against spending people time to do these things for the most part.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, like, you know, I would spend the 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. hour applying to jobs, or 9 to 10 p.m. applying to jobs, and that lunch hour meeting somebody, or even just connecting on LinkedIn, sending a note. Hey, I saw your profile and I saw that we're connected both to Tracy. Would love to connect. Or sending Tracy a note and saying, Tracy, will you connect me too? Christina, she looks great and has a lot of things that I blah, blah, blah. And so those are all things for connection and for networking, even though they are still online or they're whatever. That's part of building your network, because you have to kind of do all those steps. So I think that's really the biggest part here. But, you know, the other piece of this is you do have to go apply online. So there's a lot of websites, there's a lot of places. You can get overwhelmed easily. So that's why like LinkedIn and Indeed are really popular, because they aggregate a lot of stuff. So you can kind of just go in there and search. I'm searching for a media job like Griffin, you know, media in Dallas. And that really narrows it down for me, instead of just going to TI only, and then it's only one company and it's only one place, and that's harder to find, you know, that one role. But it also lets you do research. And so I think a lot of those things are, you know, different powerful tools. This last point here I'll say is that your personal website is your most powerful tool, because anyone who is looking to employ you, if you apply to a job, they are going to go look at your LinkedIn profile, for example. All right, so this is where that list we just wrote down, you're going to start activating it. You have this in your workbook. So looking forward to seeing you all putting some pen to paper here.
Yeah, the point is just keeping track, having a system, or whether it's a spreadsheet or something else, to keep track of the ones that you're interested in, the area, the positions that you're applying to, etc.
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet, but you know, and I keep track of people who I connect with regularly. So, you know, this slide is really just focusing on connect lots of different ways. Like I said, a message through LinkedIn, hey, you're connected to this person. Will you connect with me? And note that in your tracker. I reached out to this person on this date. So then maybe in a week or two, you can follow up with them.
Yeah, and this is just a progression. So you might first meet someone on LinkedIn and, you know, follow it up by a message or an email to them. Then schedule a time to talk, you know, talk on the phone, or reach out and pick up the phone and call them, and then have an in-person meeting. And that's on your way to building a trusted connection.
For sure, for sure. I think
there's not a whole lot to say about this other than just, you know, make sure you're not using your work email to look for another job. That's really kind of tacky. So
and make sure your email's appropriate. So I've seen a lot of like,
yeah,
hotmama@gmail, like don't apply to a job with that, you know.
Yeah, and Yahoo is seen as a little outdated. So Gmail or Outlook or even iCloud would be better.
All right, this is actually a really important slide, even though it's kind of plain, is proofreading your email, because I proofread my emails and I still miss things. So like I'll write something and I step away from it and I come back and I read it, and I actually usually read it out loud, because reading it out loud, your ears hear things that your eyes don't always see. So that actually helps you make sure that you've said everything correctly, because the worst thing you can do is if you're trying to get to know somebody or make a good impression is have a mistake, you know, and and look not put together. And then always like sign it with all the ways that they can get to know you: your name, your email, your LinkedIn profile. Any way that they can get to know you and contact you is great there. And then, yeah, if you've been referred or have some sort of mutual contact, include that in the note. Hey, Tracy referred me to Christina, to you know, Christina, I'm so excited to see blah, 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 and you blah, blah, blah. And make sure you add that context in there, because that connection is super important, instead of just me getting a blind email and I didn't know Tracy sent you to me. If you call someone, again, pray and prep. So I used to would just pick up the phone and call somebody blind. And then with time, I've learned that a phone call is just like an email. I need to write it and think about it and proofread it and all those things before I ever actually do it. So I prepare. I sometimes will have bullet points down of the things I want to get out of the phone call, the things I want to say or don't want to say, all those things. And so the same thing goes with any phone call when you're trying to network, especially when it's a new connection. Of course, when you've got a, you know, solid relationship already, that's different. But if you're trying to know somebody, you don't necessarily want to call them, you know, when you're in the carpool lane, the kids are in the back seat screaming and you've never met them before. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you. You know, you want to really have a focus. Here's the 3 things I want to say. Here's the things I want to, you know, make sure I'm giving you and you're giving me, and have that clear plan before you ever make the phone call. Excuse me.
That's a good point, actually. When you want to speak with somebody about make your network, or you want to try or looking for a job, you have to be clear, because you have to be clear by your own. What is what I really want? What is my plan? Where do you want to go? Because it's different if you have a lot of ideas, or okay, whatever, I'm just looking for any job. Everybody found know somebody that he's looking for somebody to work. But if you are not clear, they're gonna connect you with the wrong place, and you're gonna waste your time and the others.
Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, I've had several connections where either, well, it was me or it was the other person who didn't have a clear plan. Like, here's what I want. Here's my resume. I'm looking for A, B, and C. Or it was like, oh, yeah, well, I'm kind of looking for a job. I'm not sure, and so really being concise and specific is the most important thing. And so having that plan in advance is super important.
Yeah, and that's something that the cover letter helps a lot when you start with to knock the door to somebody. The cover letter is, I guess it's so important, almost important like the resume.
Yeah, for sure. So these next few slides are just a couple different options, and we can kind of share them, but really just different ways to get in-person connections. Tracy, I think you can go on.
Yeah, so basically just, like the list that you started making before, think about the groups that you're in part of, or maybe be strategic in joining certain groups. If there's an industry that you're a part of, maybe you want to be more involved in American Marketing Association or whatever, getting leadership positions in those. Those can be great ways. Even something like Toastmasters can, solve multiple it's a connection, but you're also working on your public speaking. So I would say be strategic at this time if you have a little extra time, just to make connections in things that interest you and where you might find people that could be good referrals or good contacts.
Yeah, for sure. This page, I love recruiters. So getting recruiters, there's recruiting firms, there's recruiters. So kind of finding different types of recruiters if you want somebody to be recruiting for you. So your friends are your recruiters. Your network are your recruiters. I've actually recently seen several friends of mine post on their Facebook, hey, we have an opening at this place if you're interested. And I've seen friends post, I'm looking for a new job in marketing if anybody knows anything or something like that. And I'm telling you, like, people have found places because, again, the network is the most powerful thing. And so use your network and ask people and put it out there because somebody's going to know someone or be able to connect you with it.
For sure. And I think sometimes, there's some people that get embarrassed about being in a transition. There's nothing to be ashamed about. Everyone goes through transitions. So really just, the more people who know and the more people know that what you're looking for, the better off you are for finding what you're going to be suited to do.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are really happy to help. And so I think it's good to put it out there.
Sure.
And also, if these people, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
I just want to say, if people that we already know, we can be shy. We're not going to be shy with them because we already know them. So we can be honest with them and be fresh and speak with them clear and easy.
Right. Sure. So another idea is having networking cards. So chances are you're not going to have a resume with you everywhere you go, nor would it necessarily be appropriate in a social situation to hand someone your resume. But having a little business card, your job perhaps is looking for a job. And so that is a perfectly reasonable thing to have a business card sized networking card that you can, hand to someone that has your phone number, your email address, your tagline, your value statement, and of course your LinkedIn page. You can even get them like free from Vistaprint, I think, for about 250 of them. So just make sure they're professional looking. Anything you do that's going to, be part of your personal branding, you want it to be high quality. But this is a great idea. It's not like you have to have this, but it can be a good way to get the word out as well.
Okay, we are almost out of time, but this is a super important point, your 30-second elevator pitch. So what is it you're looking for? What are the best skills that you have that you can bring to the table? And what value will you bring to your future employer? You have to write that down and practice that 30-second elevator pitch. So like that I don't know if y'all have heard of that, but what's the elevator pitch? If I get on in an elevator on the bottom floor with someone, can I give them exactly all those points before we reach the top floor of a building? So that's kind of what that 30-second elevator pitch is. And so I've done lots of sessions about these, and we practice them. I literally have to say it to someone else over and over until I feel comfortable with the words. We maybe say it out loud and say, oh, instead of saying that, try these words, or here's a more concise way to say this phrase. And, you know, until you've got it down to where you don't even have to think about what you're saying, because boom, you get in that elevator with someone who is your future employer. Okay, oh, well, I'm great at blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And we're happy to be a resource for you. So if you want to practice that with a coach, just know that that is available. And also every beginning of every Zoom call, that's one of the reasons I do it. We try to keep it like, 15, 20 seconds, but that I want you all to have the opportunity to introduce yourself each time and be able to succinctly say what you do. I will send a video to y'all to like with some other tips, and then just reach out if you want further coaching on that. So another thing, the Crossroads career site, hopefully you've already been on it, but if you register, you can see like a million jobs. You can search by keyword, zip codes, and you can also post your resume up there, get job alerts as well. Christina mentioned Indeed. I don't know if you have anything else to say about this site. It's just, definitely one of the premier job posting sites, as well as LinkedIn, huge for expanding your professional network, marketing yourself. We have a complete hour training on it that I highly recommend. If you haven't seen it and you want it, email me and I will send you the link. And then there's a number of other job search sites that could be specific to your industry, but I would say LinkedIn and Indeed are definitely some of the main ones. There's certainly social media that has opportunities as well. Future employers are likely going to check your social media, so make sure that you know what's out there from a public perspective, and be very, careful even on your Facebook and Instagram that you have, a reasonable picture, and it's something that you would allow your grandmother to see, basically. A future employer should not be turned away by something that is on your public Facebook site. And definitely there's employer websites as well that can be part of your research benefits for the organization. And they're going to make sure when they do a review that you're qualified, you're answering all the questions, you're not misrepresenting your answer, or listing references without permission. In fact, we recommend just waiting you're not going to be presumptuous and give references before they're asked for. Finally, before we move on, this is the talent fit document that John Casey mentioned last week, and we can go into more details with it later. But basically, on top of a resume, his suggestion is to take the skills and the job requirements that are listed for that particular job opening, and then you're going to break down your skills and experience and answer the questions for them, so you're able to tell them, I've got A, B, and C here, and S, Q, and L here, and all of that. And that's just going to be a document that's going to precede your resume, that's going to differentiate yourself. They do that for all of their executive level candidates before they present them to the companies, his clients, and they love it because they're able to see very much at a glance, what they're looking for and how you match that particular job requirement. And then also you're not having to customize your resume each time to a lot of, degree. Your resume is going to stay more stable. This is just going to be customized per job description. So before we end, anything in particular that anyone else wants to add?
Can I ask two quick questions? Number
Sure.
one, this talent fit document, are you saying that we should develop one of those for every role and maybe have it on hand for the interview, or is that what you meant?
Yeah, ideally for the jobs that you're most interested in. If you're really interested in a job, we recommend you coming up with that,
Okay.
which basically means, yes, it does take time. So if you're applying to 50 jobs, a week, maybe you're applying to 30, but you're applying to, or 10, you're applying to the ones that you're most interested in and most qualified for, and really taking the time to differentiate yourselves.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I can send that out as well if y'all
Great,
would like to
thanks.
see the document.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll know that we are praying for you throughout the week and available to you anytime that you have questions or need, specific coaching on anything in particular. We'd like to match you up with someone, so feel free to reach out. And then we were going to go ahead and close in prayer. And if you do need to reach back out to the previous, any of the previous sessions, Christina put it in chat, or you should find them on my email. So with that, we'll close. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Father, thank you that I'm yours. My life belongs to you and I have great worth. Thank you that your perfect plan for my life is being fulfilled. I believe that everything is aligning for my growth and the realization of your will in my life. Yes, what you speak with your mouth, your hand fulfills. What you have declared, no one can stop. In Jesus' name, amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay, y'all have a great week and we'll be talking to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
You